In the second video for June, we'll be looking at the concept of what constitutes a grant. Now, it is important to look at that because in practice, we often get terminology used in legal documents talking about grants where a grant for a legal, in terms of a legal interpretation, is different from a grant for VAT purposes. A grant is a defined term in the VAT Act, and it is defined as follows. It says it's an appropriation, grant in aid, subsidy or contribution transferred, granted or paid to a vendor by a public authority, municipality or constitutional institution listed in Schedule 1 to the Public Finance Management Act. Now, you can see there's two elements to this. On the one side, it's a payment, appropriation, a grant in aid or a subsidy or a contribution. So it's got nothing to do with the supply of services. The moment you link the payment to the supply of specific services, it can't be a grant. And then it has to be asked, is this consideration for a supply just being called a grant, which would then be subject to VAT. Now, the other second requirement is it must be paid by very specific categories of organizations. And it is a public authority, municipality, constitutional institution listed in Schedule 1 to the PMFA. The first two categories are defined in the VAT Act. You go to those and see what is a public authority and a municipality. The second category, you must go to the PMFA and see whether the organization having made that payment falls within one of those categories listed in the PMFA. So not a simple issue of when I call it a grant, it is a grant. Now, in the specific question asked to us was in the background, what it said was it was linked to a contractual deliverable. So it was really not a grant. It was really just giving you money to do what I wanted to do in any event. So in those instances, you'll be out of it being a grant immediately. So then the normal VAT rules apply. Is it consideration for supply? And keep in mind, the consideration for supply doesn't need to be paid by the person that receives the goods or services. It can be paid by any third person. So in the specific case, it was paid by a third person, still consideration for supply, subject to VAT, yes, and subject to VAT at 14%, not the 0% that would have applied to a grant. This is an issue that we need to be really careful about in the market when you deal with this on a daily basis. So be aware that the nature of definitions or the definitions in the VAT Act drive a lot of behaviors, and be very clear on what the definitions say. In this specific case, the definition of what is a grant is critical. I trust that makes sense.